Hi, I'm Francina,
I'm Jackie.
and welcome to the Rest, Love, and Justice podcast.
This podcast is an inquiry into whether rest and love and justice can produce transformative social change. The dominant narrative is this overwork and this glorification of it, especially in the justice space. And here, we're going to question that notion.
Come sit with us as we meet our collective humanity and share stories around rest, love, and justice. It is our hope to create a shift that enables us to recognize that racial justice work is a human issue. It affects us all.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Rest, Love, and Justice podcast. I'm here with my co-host,
Francina Call.
and we are here bringing you a Vibe Out. As a reminder, a Vibe Out is a session where Francina and I just chat about a topic that has come through for us that week or that month, and we just spend some time on it. Just kind of take a little bite out of maybe a topic that's heavy, maybe something that seems kind of hard to discuss across lines, across race, and so we take our time here to have that conversation. And today, I actually want to pull a quote from you, Francina, from one of our past podcasts. And I'm going to read it now, kind of share what came up in my body when I heard you say these words, and we can just have a conversation. So Francina brought up the notion of asking for permission. And she said, I've noticed a lot of white people will just go for touching a black body without asking for permission or consent. And this being a way to disarm themselves as a way to say, look, I'm not racist. If we just met, I don't need you to just reach out and touch me simply because you're feeling like you need to prove something to me. I'm just going to pause on that right now. And I want to acknowledge that I felt the need to do this before. Mm-hmm. I felt the need, the entitlement to touch someone I didn't know, a black person that I don't know. And so I just appreciate you saying that, naming that. I have like shame in even saying and admitting that I had that thought. Whether I've done it or not, I'm actually not even sure. I know I've learned along the way to not do that, but I just want to acknowledge that. And maybe there's other white people, other listeners that have either done this or thought about it as well. Like, where is that entitlement in our culture that we can touch other people? And especially as a way, which I think you were trying to get at, Francina, as a way for me to feel more comfortable. Like, that blows my mind that that's something I would, like, it's about my comfort, even though we know that the power dynamic with race in the United States is that white people have the power. And so why am I trying to get more comfortable in a situation? So, I know, and I'm sure many of our listeners, but if not, like, don't touch other people. Don't touch other people's hair. Don't if you don't know the person, don't touch them. And I want to hear kind of, Francina, any kind of thoughts you have. And I also thought we could just workshop here. Like, what's another thing we can do? What are the things that we can do to show appreciation, to show connection, that's not touch?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that drops into my mind is there has been for hundreds of years this normalization of taking away the choice, taking away or a violation of brown and indigenous bodies, black and indigenous bodies, for the benefit of white people. And benefit does not just mean something that's good for them, but can also be to ease their discomfort. And we're bringing this conversation up because violation of anyone cannot be the option to ease your own discomfort. What if we flip that and said, how about you sit with your discomfort? What is your discomfort about? Right? And if people are uncomfortable with people of different races, that violating them by just going and touching their body to make them feel more comfortable, if that's the only answer, then yeah, then we're going nowhere. There has to be, the basic honoring of humanity to ask for permission. Ask for permission. And I love the story. And I'm also just naming here that my video is not synced with my audio, but we're just going to keep rolling because this is what regular folk do. Like, life is happening and we're just going to move with it. We were at a retreat with a good friend of ours who is on one of the podcasts that we recorded earlier. And we were in this group. It was a mix of Black people, white people, Hispanic. We were all in a group together, and we came together for a picture. And you told me, I asked Aaron for permission. Is it okay that I put my hand on your back to lean in for this picture? And he said, yes, thanks for asking. And I just think to myself, how many people just lean in and just go for it without considering, is that person okay? And I would ask even the deeper question of, do we ever sit to think about someone's experience with touch, right? Like, what if people just touching your body growing up is a trauma for you? And we're not considering when we just lean in and put our hand on, like, think about even this, like, you're in a restaurant and the server comes to ask for your order and they just casually put their hand on your shoulder to disarm me or make themselves feel more comfortable. Touch for some people is trauma. And if we are working to be human beings that are conscious, kind, moving through the earth in a way that we want to be treated, a simple question, is it okay? And sometimes if you're asking yourself, is it okay? What is the necessity, for example, of a server in a restaurant putting their hand on a Black man's shoulder? Like, what is warranted there when you're taking an order for his drink?
Yeah. I just appreciate how you kind of answered these questions that I started with, like, where does this come from? Where does this thought come from that I'm like, oh, maybe I should put my hand on someone else? And I mean, you answered that. It's the historical context of, colonialism and slavery in this country and many places, the normalizing of the entitlement of white people to be able to do whatever they want, especially with bodies of culture, Black bodies. So I appreciate, like, where it comes from is our history. And I mean, that wasn't taught to me by my parents, like no one in my community was like, do this thing, like, right. So it's like, how culture can still come through when it's not like formally taught. And I think it also, what you touched on is like, why am I feeling uncomfortable? And why do I need to kind of show that I'm not racist in that moment? I mean, for me, what's coming in my body is like, I don't feel like I'm doing enough to dismantle racism in this country. So, but that's not going to be fixed in a restaurant when I'm, like that, or in a space like through touch. Yeah. That's not how it's going to be resolved or worked on or anything. So, I just appreciate this conversation too, and what's like showing up in my body that, that where is that coming from? Like, where are the origins, both historically and then within myself, where I feel like I need to, show solidarity or alignment. Like, no, I can just say whatever the scenario is, I can just appreciate that person for who they are. If there's a connection, I can say thank you, I appreciate you. I can use words to connect. Or maybe sometimes it means I don't need to say anything too. Like, white people, white women often take up a lot of space. Maybe that means saying less too. So, and just to know that this is nuanced, and it's hard to even track for, I feel like, white culture. Like, wait, okay, so I say something or I don't say something, or like, there's not going to be a right answer. I think it's just being open and being able to even reflect on a moment. Like, did I do the right thing? I asked about touch. Was that okay? Like, to take a moment to just reflect and even be in conversation. If you have people you can be in conversation with, I can be like, Francina, what happened, like, what did I do? What's going on? Like,
Yeah.
to be able to move forward and to learn of how we can be like more connected with our heart and less about shame or anything else.
I also just want to bring up here for any listeners who might be thinking or rolling their eyes and like, oh my gosh, now touch is a violation. It is. It actually is, and I think that part of it is we need to be able to sit with truth that when you touch somebody, energy exchanges. You take energy from a person when you put your hand on them. And I think that for white people listening to this, who have an allergy to conversations around race, who are, maybe getting tired, because I've heard a lot of people say, oh, I'm so sick and tired of talking about or hearing about race. Well, first of all, if we can name the things that are happening that have become normalized, that anybody can just walk up and touch my hair or touch my body. And I've experienced that on the regular. Oh my God, your hair is so amazing. And they just put their hands on it. Look, this is my crown. You don't get to just do that. If I walked into a room and just put my hands on a white body, the smile on your face, Jackie, says it all, right? And I want people to put themselves in this situation, right? You don't know who I am. I am your server at a restaurant and I walk up and I just put my hand, oh my God, I love your hair. And I just touch your hair at the table. It's a violation. It's not okay. And, the fact that we even have to have a conversation in this day and age, 2023, speaks to the reality that the experiences of Brown and Indigenous and Black people in this country have not been on the forefront of anybody's mind because they didn't matter as much. And part of us being in conversation right now on this podcast and talking about the things that emerge, right? Part of it is this came up in the middle of one of our podcast recordings. And I was like, we need to do a vibe out on this because race is one of those things that nobody really wants to talk about. But we're having these conversations to just bring to the forefront, to bring to people's consciousness some of the things that we take for granted that maybe we shouldn't. And that if we're in the interest of building relationships, building community in ways that will heal this racial divide, right? Because then ultimately that's what our goal is to heal it on both sides, right? Then we're really about something that's greater than just, us just having a conversation, a random conversation, right? We want to be about change that heals both people. It heals Black people because we don't constantly have to defend our right to not be touched, right? Because every time I've said, please don't touch my hair, it's looked at as an offense. Oh, like, the angry Black woman, right? And for white people, it heals you so that you are pausing to think about what is your situation that you feel like you can just go around and do whatever you want. This isn't it. I don't get to go and do whatever I want. Nobody can go around and just do whatever they want, right? And so part of the healing is being able to sit with, okay, I have my own stuff that I need to sit with. Let me sit with that. If I'm uncomfortable and I need to ease my discomfort by wanting to do something that would make someone else feel violated or uncomfortable, then I need to sit with, okay, what is so uncomfortable in my body that I need to help heal? That does not require the harming or the violation of another person.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And this conversation is repair. Like you and I are talking about touch and, I'm acknowledging entitlement and you're sharing your experiences of being violated by someone touching your hair. And so I just appreciate us having this conversation, us being able to offer what we know about how there's a different way to lead from the heart and actually connect across race and to not overcompensate for something that's not there too. So as white culture can do. So
Love
Thank
that.
you all for being here
Yeah.
for our vibe out around touch, and appreciate you, Francina, for these words, this quote that I shared at the beginning, and for the conversation. There's definitely more on this in the future. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Francina. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
And that is our show for this week. This episode was produced by The City Music. As for me, I'm Jackie Gao, and thanks to my co-host, Francina Call.
May you move through this week embodying rest, love, and justice in ways that are meaningful to you and your community. Thanks for joining us today. Peace and love.